Hey everyone, and welcome back to Shmindle Shmumlimited, the podcast for reviews, rants, and ramblings about books from our favorite way to get books, the Kindle Unlimited universe. I'm one of your hosts, Amity.
And I'm Lauren.
And I'm Steph, and this week we read Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maehrer. But before we get into the book, how has your week been? What are you guys reading, watching? I can go first because I haven't been reading anything because school it's that point of the year where I go to school. I also work out after school now instead of in the morning, and I tutor, and by the time I'm sitting on the couch, I'm asleep. So it's been a little rough, but I have been watching a lot of Love is Blind this season.
Oh.
So I'm all caught up on Love is Blind because it's a nice TV show that I can fall asleep to. So what about you guys? Are you guys reading anything?
So we've been watching a little TV, started 1923, loved it. Now have to wait until every Sunday for an episode to come out.
Oh, that's the best.
It's the old school.
And then I started reading a non-KU book, First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. She's got this series like Love Light Farms.
Okay, I actually feel like I've heard
is
that book.
super cute. I really like it. I'm like a third of the way through. It's adorable.
Nice. I read Comeback by Rebecca Genshak.
Oh, is that the second book in the...
Yes, the series, maybe even be the third book in the series with like the brothers,
Oh, yes.
the Holland brothers.
'Cause we read
The first one.
we read the second one.
The second one?
Or this might be the fourth book. I don't know.
There's been a gymnast.
With the
Yes,
motocross.
yeah, that's the one we didn't
motocross.
read.
There was
And-
a football player with the girl who was getting his underwear.
Which we read that one.
Yes,
Male.
that's the one we
Yes,
read.
I read that one. And then this one is their like adopted brother.
Oh, yes,
The
yeah.
one that's deaf, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And no,
But
he's
this
not
is the
adopted
actual.
brother.
Is this the
Yeah.
actual brother?
He's the actual brother who is roommates with the adopted brother.
Yes, with the panties and the...
Yes, and the
Male.
adopted brother's half sister or full
Right.
sister, maybe. I can't remember. But I read it. It was very good. I also had the flu. And so I got a lot of TV watching in. I am on season, I think 3, but I may have started 4 of Younger. Have you guys watched that?
No, but I've heard it. It's with Hilary Duff.
Never
Yeah.
did.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Hilary Duff was in it, so I was like, I gotta try it out. I'm really enjoying it. And Brian and I just started Running Point.
Oh, the Kate Hudson one.
Yes, with Kate Hudson in it. I think also on Netflix.
Yes.
And we're watching that together, and the episodes are like the perfect length that I can watch one at night, get sleepy but not fall asleep, so we can finish a whole episode. And then
yeah, it's
Are
I'll
they
read
25
myself.
minutes long?
Yes, yeah. I don't even know.
Is it 20?
I don't even know if they're that long. It might be like 22
Those
or so.
commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's perfect. Like it's totally digestible. We can watch it together, and then half the time he just gets out of bed and goes because he's like, it's 9:18. I'm not ready to sleep. And half the time I don't even pick up my book. I just go to sleep. And the other half the time I'll pick up my book and start reading. So it's been enjoyable. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. TJ and I just started, we got HBO Max for like a trial.
Okay.
It's like 3 months or whatever. So we watched, have you heard of The Pit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I watched a couple episodes so far.
Yeah,
Very
it's
good.
pretty good. It's pretty good. So it's like a TV show of like, they call it The Pit,
ER.
the ER hospital, and it's like an
Okay.
hour each episode. So each episode's like an hour in the ER, but it goes one shift altogether. So, but we've been watching that.
Well, I thought the first episode had a rhabdo patient.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, I know this. Rhabdo, PT waves, heart stopped,
Yes.
dialysis.
Max is like saying that it's like the only show that actually depicts what
It's
he goes
rather-
through on a daily
except
basis.
the fact that if a patient is in the ER hold waiting for a room upstairs, the ER doctors do not manage the patient. It is the hospital that
That
manages
goes,
it.
yeah, minus that. But so we've been watching that, but the episodes are an hour. But
Okay.
afterwards, we'll go back to Netflix. So, Assistant to the Villain takes place in Hickory Forest. It is a mythical, like what type of genre would you like magical
Yeah, fantasy. I'd call it
fantasy?
fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy.
Fantasy light.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of world building, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in the Kingdom of Renadon.
Yeah, I wasn't about to pronounce that.
I got it.
So we meet the main character, Evie, and she is kind of like,
She's she's down on her luck.
yes.
That way.
So her dad has this weird illness that kind of you either die from the illness or you're like internally in pain.
Yeah.
So
The mystic illness is
is
what we shall call it.
yeah, and so she kind of has to, and she has a younger sister who's still in college, or not still in college, still in
like
school.
Elementary.
Elementary.
She's rather young.
Yeah.
Her
Her name
sister,
was
Lissa, and she is
10 years old. I don't know why I just said college.
It's okay.
We had a field trip to the zoo today, so running after 7-year-olds and
oh gosh,
making sure they didn't fall into the alligator pit was a little exhausting.
Let's just say Darwinism. And Evie is 23, so she's quite a bit older. Evie is out of a job. Her last job, she was working for the blacksmith, who then stabbed her with a magical white dagger. We don't quite know why. We just know it was bad. And then she is looking for a job. She ends up wandering into the Hickory Forest, which is the villain. His territory. The villain with a capital TH.
Full name.
And then she walks up to the stream, and then all of a sudden she's, I don't know, she's like washing her hands or something, and then all of a sudden it's just going red with blood. She looks upstream, and there is a man just laying there. She goes up to him. She knows she shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Goes up, and then the guy who's laying there pulls her underneath his cloak as he's bleeding, and then guards come up and they're hiding from them. And there's quite a bit of like funny banter while together. The banter in this is stellar. And then he makes her go back to Massacre Manor because, I mean, now that she's associated with him, she has nowhere else to go.
Okay, so this was my question. She like instantly knew he was the villain. Like, but nobody else knows that he's the villain.
So no one knows what his face looks like. They just know him as the villain, and they have these wanted posters around the kingdom that depicts a really old man. Imagine,
you know what I thought
haggard and
what I thought of Tangled. You know the movie Tangled. Yeah, when they're looking for. They have the wanted poster.
I love that movie.
And what is it? It's not Prince Charming. It's
Flynn Rider.
Flynn Rider. Yeah, goes up and he's like, "That's not what I look like."
I love the horse in that movie. Yeah. Oh my god.
That's what I thought of when I had
that is funny. Yeah.
I thought of the same thing.
Like the setting of that kind of reminds me of what I imagine this book to be like.
Yes, same.
So villain ends up giving Evie a job, and then we jump to 5 months later, and the scene opens with severed heads hanging from the ceiling again. It's not the first time this has happened. But the villain never harms innocents. He's out for vengeance only, is what we've come to know so far. Then we're introduced to Becky, or Rebecca, with a CK. She is the mean girl at work.
Yeah, but they kind of like her, but like she's not very nice.
She's not very nice, but she's very good at her job. She's supposed to manage the office. But Evie's job, she is the assistant to
the villain.
Hence the name of the book. We get to know a little bit more about Evie. She is a klutz. I loved the part where the boss helped her up, and then he does the hand clenching. It just made me think of Pride and Prejudice, like Mr. Darcy vibes. Have I seen that movie 80 million times? Yes, I have. Will I watch
it? My like college hangover nap movie.
Yeah.
It's when you can say every single word in the movie. I think you might have seen it one too many times, but
it's funny reading this book. I did think of like I made so many connections to other books.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yes.
curious, not other books, like movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm curious if she had inspiration from like movies or,
I mean, that has to be Mr. Darcy written all over it. It's the only thing I can
yeah.
I'm willing this into fruition. Then there's a shipment of weapons that's compromised. So he basically villain like steals stuff from the king.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
He's
And
out for vengeance for the king.
yeah, but she doesn't really quite understand like why he's doesn't like the king.
He does not make that very public.
No.
He's a very private person, but he trusts Evie, so he enlists her to help figure out who the traitor is that basically gave up their plans to raid this, to get the weapons.
Because he
And he
knows it has
trusts
to be
Evie, but
somebody
Evie
in.
also has this like instinctive trust of him too.
Yeah.
Mhm. And Evie just kind of makes the office better.
Yeah. Everybody loves her there.
Hmm
It's almost Grumpy
Then
Sunshine, but I don't know that I'd describe the villain as grumpy.
he's past the
He's
turn.
yeah, he's semi-grumpy.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Also, like I was kept thinking of Shrek the movie.
In the morning, I'm making waffles. I was okay. So this next part, I was shocked when we learned Tristan, villain's name is Tristan. I was shocked that we were going to learn it. I thought we were just going to go the entire book knowing him as
The villain.
We find out that Evie is unable to betray him because there's some magical tattoo on. Is it her pinky? I don't know.
I don't
It's
I don't
it's
remember
on
which
her
finger.
hand. It's one of her fingers, and that tattoo is magical, and it would turn into poison if she betrayed him. Um, yeah. So, I mean,
And that's standard operating procedure for him.
yes, all of his guards have it, although her tattoo is a little different. It's made out of gold ink instead of green. Um, then there's this clicking noise happening in the office.
Oh yeah.
Evie can't quite figure it out. And then is this your favorite character, Amity?
Yes, Kingsley the Frog.
Kingsley the frog. So he's a magical frog that he can't talk, but he can hold up signs.
Like Charlotte's Web,
Yeah.
salutations.
Um, Evie ends up going into Villain's office. He's not there and finds this bomb. So the klutz that she is, runs out onto the
Yeah,
parapet.
she's like has like a plan to where she's gonna throw it.
Yeah, so she runs out onto the parapet and she trips and gets her foot stuck and
She nearly made it though.
almost so close. And Villain shows up in just the nick of time and I don't remember, he saves her life.
Yes.
Kind of shields her away and throws kind of gets her far enough away from the bomb that she
Yeah.
can die.
And the king feels betrayed, but he like got to see the bomb beforehand and was like, "Oh, I know where this came from."
Oh yes, yes. Yeah, so he
So he brings Evie home in his carriage, and her sister comes outside and sees the villain, and he introduces himself with his real name, which was like,
I really, again, I didn't think we were gonna learn his name. I was surprised. It's Tristan Maehrer.
Now I was like curious, is there always a villain and the person who it is changes?
Hmm?
I don't know why I thought that. Like
No, he is the villain.
he is the
He is
villain.
the villain, as far as I know.
yeah, that's in this book, he is the villain.
He is the villain, yeah.
The villain. Then we skip to Tristan or the villain enlisting Evie to help her figure out the owner of the timepiece on the bomb. So they go to Red Bloom Tavern. Rick is Evie's annoying ex-fling, and he doesn't really get the picture, like, believe me the hell
Yeah.
alone. So
It was funny because when they arrived to the tavern, she's like, "What are we doing here?"
well,
And
they didn't arrive together.
no, he told her to meet him
Yeah,
there, but
he gave
he
her the
didn't want to
day
be there
off.
alone.
Yeah.
Yes, he needed
So-
to fit in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Villain ends up showing up and going all caveman and getting jealous.
Well, because Evie was like, "Oh yes, my lover is here. Thank
Yes.
goodness." And he's just like, "Yeah, I can be that. This is fine. I will protect you from this weirdo."
And then the bar owner is who they're waiting for because he is a maker of the timepiece and his name is Malcolm. Malcolm ends up, Evie calls him over, being as obvious as possible.
Yeah.
And Malcolm's first thing he says is, "What the fuck are you doing here, brother?"
Oh yes,
Didn't
it
see
was
that
the
coming.
yes, that it was the
Yes.
brother.
So it turns
And he
out
was
to
like,
be
OMG.
the villain's brother. Tristan doesn't kill him because Evie helps to calm him down because he was about to. Tristan, there's this scene where Malcolm hears Tristan and Evie talking, and he comments to Tristan, "You're fucked."
Yeah, and then they like proceed to get Malcolm drunk, and then he talks about the buyer of the bomb.
He doesn't know who it is, but he did have glowing blue ink under his nails, so he got a
Yes.
clue.
And then there's only one person who knows about ink.
Blue ink,
Glowing.
which we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Evie goes back to work, and you meet a new character that works at the villain's house, which is Blade, who has a dragon that
He's the trainer of all magical creatures.
yes.
But he has no idea what the hell he's doing.
And he's basically came to work with the villain because he had a dragon egg, and so he kind of raised the dragon. So
Evie sees a letter to Blade that is requesting he work for King Benedict. And she says, "Okay, you need to tell the villain or I will." And she gives him a chance to like come out and tell the
tell
villain.
him everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's still trying to figure out who in the house
Is the
traitor, but it can't be Blade because
we learn that Blade grew up in the Gleaming City and his father is in the king's court and he wanted Blade to join. Blade did not. So he ends up stealing the egg from the king and just flees and then asks villain for a job.
He's always had a curiosity for creatures and all that stuff.
I kind of like the idea of picturing, because it doesn't sound like anybody lives at the manor other than the villain. Like they all go home.
It's villain and the healer.
Yes. But everybody else, it sounds like there's a fair amount of people who work there, and they all just go home to their families in their surrounding little towns and just like, yeah, I have a job somewhere. Everything's fine.
Right? Like no one asks
No
questions.
Yeah. She tells her family that she works for like a lord or something.
Yeah, some rich people at this house. But, no one knows who they are.
But her family kind of sucks. But like nobody has friends.
Yeah.
Or do they all see like their little like ring tattoo thing and they're like, oh, I know, but I can't talk to you about it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Then we go on another adventure to Rosewood Meadow with Villain and Tatiana, who is the healer, to find Clarissa, the only person in the kingdom that sells the ink that was under the fingernails. Just happens to be Villain's sister and Tatiana's ex. Complicated.
It's a small world over there. Everybody kind of knows everybody. So Claire gets home and
like, what the fuck are you doing here? You can't be here. The man who bought the ink signed in her book the name Lark Murray. He had the Valiant Guard's sigil. And then we end up finding out the villain worked for the king before, and then Claire calls him a monster.
Yeah.
So she's not very nice to her brother.
Yeah, they have some like animosity and says that she doesn't really need to know anymore about his history with the king. And we don't really learn at that time like anything else.
Villain was kind of an ass to Evie.
Yeah.
So he,
grumpy.
Yes.
And then Becky finds that letter from the king about Blade, shows it to the villain, and then villain just like jumps to conclusions.
Obviously, because what else do you do?
Yeah. And Evie's all upset and says he doesn't trust her, and so she quits. Didn't even give her a chance to talk.
Yeah.
He just kind of like jumps to conclusions.
I mean, if I were villain, I would probably jump to conclusions too with that.
Yeah.
So at this point, I don't know that we've touched on it. There's multiple perspectives.
Oh yes.
And both Evie and the villain have like special feelings for each other.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know that I want to call them even fully romantic feelings yet. This book is very YA. Like
Yes.
I kept waiting for it to not be, but it was YA. And so I think he jumped to conclusions because he had placed her on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a lot of trust issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, he doesn't talk to his brother, he doesn't talk to his sister. Like we don't get, and then he doesn't really have family besides Evie
And Tatiana.
and
that's about
Tatiana.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just where Evie at least has her dad and her sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So Evie goes home, no job.
It takes one day for the office to be in complete shambles. Blade ends up coming to the villain and explaining the employment letter.
was his, yeah, and
Mhm.
explains the whole situation to him. Okay, this is like where I got a little bit like I was like, okay, so why villain doesn't go to Evie and ask her to come back?
'Cause he's
Like,
a proud man.
I don't know. That's where I was like,
He's a proud villain, Steph.
he made a mistake. You gotta own it. At
I
least
know.
invite her back and be like, hey,
I really thought he would.
yeah, me too.
I really thought that's how that was gonna go play out, but it doesn't.
And
Evie ends up going back to the manor. Says she's hurt. She apologizes for quitting and then asks for her job back. He actually apologizes. I was very proud of
he
him.
does apologize, yeah,
Yes.
but she has to go there first.
Over and
Mhm.
over again, Evie's the bigger person.
She
Yes.
is. And then we got a little backstory here about Evie's mom, because her mom is not in the picture.
Yes.
Her mom is magical and has the power of sunlight, and which her magic woke up after she gave birth to Lissa. And we get like the magic kind of drained her mom. They end up going to the dandelion fields. It's the three children. So Gideon is her older brother,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which we learn about at this point. We didn't know about him before. Lissa and Evie go with her mom to the dandelion fields, are playing with the magic. And her mom is like throws a ball of starlight, and the thing killed her brother.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in complete accident. This is not meant to happen. So we start getting a little bit more like magic
Yeah.
going on here.
And the villain is magical.
He is. He
Yes.
is. His magic is
And his sister's
destructive.
yes. Yes. And his
It
It
sister's
almost
magic.
reminded me of Zayden's shadow magic.
Kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gray.
Yeah.
You know what? Yes. Yes, it did.
Oh, this was the funniest part to me. So the villain, I don't know, I forgot what they were talking about. And he was like, what would you name
A pet.
a pet? And she said, Fluffy.
Yes.
And this was a while ago in the
Oh, well,
book.
yeah, exactly. Kind of like one of like their like OG banters in the
Mhm.
back. And so Blade, while Evie is not working in that little small period, says that the dragon is ready for the name and names the dragon
The
Fluffy.
villain names
Yes.
the
Yes, the
dragon
yeah,
Fluffy.
the villain.
It's so cute.
'Cause he was thinking of her.
I know. And the dragon, they end up taking the chains off of him, and he starts doing so much better. He's not trying to burn everyone down as he grows. And there's a chain that was on him, and it's engraved with the letters, "The villain will fall." And that was on one of the stolen shipments from the king.
So dun dun dun.
I know.
Yeah, almost like the king
We're
knew
here.
he was
There's
coming for that shipment.
So the villain and Evie go to the town blacksmith, which is her old boss, to see the dragon's collars.
This part was so intense, I felt
oh my
like.
gosh.
Yeah.
Odo Worsen, the terrible, terrible man. And Evie goes in there, and her scar where he stabbed her
So
burns like
yeah.
horrible pain whenever she gets close to the dagger he used.
And he does say that it was the King's Guard who ordered the collar. So Evie like makes up a story about they need something from him, and then she doesn't. So then he loses it, and he comes at her with the dagger, and she collapses with pain. And the villain kind of like
I was not. He didn't force her to tell him what happened, but he defends her to the death.
Yeah.
Because they kill Mr. Worsen, or he does.
He does.
He's got like magical I don't know.
I just imagine him like exploding.
Yeah. No, it's not kind of like shadows, but or a
Yeah.
mist, I think is
Yeah,
how
it's a
they
mist.
described it.
Yeah. So, and then they introduced this new magical creature,
A gouvry?
a
Is
Gouvry.
that how you say it? It has poison breath instead of fire for breath.
Yes.
Mm.
So,
They end up catching one and bring it back.
yeah.
Of course.
We gotta have all the
All
magical
the magical
creatures.
creatures.
Um,
Oh my gosh, I love this part where Evie hangs this hideous poster.
the Flint Rider poster.
We don't want to know what it is until the villain gets there and sees what she's doing, and it's his wanted poster. That was just so
It
funny.
was so funny. I loved it.
Yes. And then a terrible storm breaks out because they captured the Goofy and they
Oh
have
yeah.
it. So everyone like has to stay at the office because
Yeah,
it's
they're
too
stuck
dangerous
there.
to go
Too dangerous to go
home.
home.
Yes. The Gouvry, the mate has been in King's Benedict's possession for 10 years. And the villain captured this one because he knew that the mate would come from King Benedict's. So they're just waiting.
Yeah, waiting for the female.
Who apparently is even scarier than the
Yeah,
male.
the male.
I mean, I approve, but it's fine.
Yeah. And the female does eventually arrive.
It doesn't take long.
No, I think yeah, it's like within seconds.
It was hours. It was
Yeah,
like later that
hours.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's
And
pages.
Evie just continues to make pretty poor choices for the fact that she doesn't have magic
Yes.
and keeps trying to rescue this villain who has a lot of magic and a lot of obviously skill with getting himself out of sketchy situations.
Uh-huh.
Just let him be.
So she tries to distract the female Gouvry from killing the villain. She like runs into the cellar, basically gets some skin burned off. Villain has to save her. And then the next morning, magically the storm has cleared. And because the mates have been
Aww.
yeah. And they're like down in the dungeon cellar area.
Together again.
Yes.
Probably making little baby ones. Gooveries.
I know. Then we get a little more backstory on Tatiana, who is the healer, and she like grew up with villain. Her magic came out when she was pretty young, like her 10th birthday, and her mom paraded her around
Oh, yes, I remember this
to
now.
heal everyone.
Yes. And the only person that was nice to her was Tristan, and
I
he baked her a
know.
cake.
So after everyone left, Tristan and his siblings celebrated with her, and Tristan was quite a bit older, but he
Yeah.
brought a cake and he made this comment that the opinions of others are ever changing. Never care quite so much of the world's perception of you. Something we could all remember every
Yeah.
once in a while.
And then she kind of wanted to like take ownership about what she was wearing her pink.
So that was, one thing that she could actually choose. So she's always in pink.
Yes. It was kind of sad reading about like her mom parading her
I
around
know.
and all that stuff.
Oh. All right. Then there's a map that's missing. And it's like in this locked cabinet / closet area. And the only people that have keys are Villain and Evie until
Oh,
she
yes.
asks him, like, does anyone else have a key? And he's like, wait a minute, there's a third key. Villain goes white. He's like, tries to throw Evie off the scent and says, it doesn't matter, forget about it.
Yeah. Okay.
He knows who it is. But then Evie and Villain and hiding in a closet because they overhear the interns talking some
yes.
gossip.
And it was so mean.
They were mean.
Saying that like Evie wasn't even that pretty and all that stuff.
Then he ends up taking her home because she's so tired from the night before,
Yes.
saving his life from a Gouvry. And while he is taking her home, they end up seeing someone in a King's Guard mask. Evie somehow gets a second wind and chases them. And it turns out to be Becky, who had gotten the mask from an intern after they found it. And she was trying to walk to the Capitol to find a cure for her grandmother, who also had the mystic illness.
Yes. And then Evie's father, he's like goes up and down. Like sometimes he's like good.
Yeah, sometimes he's good, sometimes he can't move and he's in bed.
But Tatiana has been giving some like
medicine
of some sort.
Should we call it potions?
The potions. I was gonna say like elixirs or something.
Ooh, good word.
And so she gets this like random invitation on her bed, I think, when she's like about to go to bed, from a core healer, and it's a huge formal event, and she wears this beautiful dress.
rainbow.
Yeah. And Blade and Becky are also there.
Have invitations somehow.
And we get to meet Tristan's dad.
Yeah, there's just so
Hey.
many family members.
Yes.
Who happens to be the core healer, Arthur Maverine.
Yeah. But then it's funny because the Tristan's dad, Arthur, says to Evie, like, you invited me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I didn't. So it's all
It was like she sent a letter requesting an invite and was very, very persistent
Yes.
to have the invite, which she obviously did not.
Yeah, she had no idea. And then Villain, of course, shows up all angry. And so she runs and they like dance in the forest.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. And then he sees Claire. Claire is there too.
Obviously. And then there's screaming
Yeah.
because the male Gouvry escaped.
This is like one thing after the next. And I
It was a
like,
lot. So lots of people are unalived. Blade and his sister end up recapturing the Gouvry. His Tristan's dad is like bleeding. Evie tries to help him, and then she is surrounded by the guards. Evie is a genius.
yeah, so
Let's say this.
so this is where she's like she like pretends to be like on her monthly cycle, and
Oh my gosh.
then she's pretending that they're like lovers and they
Yes.
kiss.
And luckily, none of the guards know what the villain looks like.
It's
Yeah.
the poster.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Villain ends up like waking up after he's knocked out. Evie kisses him to distract him so he won't like immediately kill the guards.
Yes. Yeah.
And this works. They end up letting them go. Villain thinks he's like dreaming while Evie is kissing him.
And then he has to realize that it's just to act.
Then the guards insist they see a different healer. They unfortunately hit Tristan over the head. Another knight grabs Evie, and just crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
Not a smart move on their behalf.
I know.
Yeah.
Evie she fights back.
Yeah.
I really
She's
like this.
feisty.
She gets a little feisty.
Yeah.
Biting and kicking.
Mm-hmm.
And then Villain's like, I have an easy solution to
Yeah.
this.
Just kill them all.
Yeah.
And this is where he realizes he loves Evie because she's not disturbed that he just killed someone.
Yeah. I think she like says the line. She's like, I've seen all the hanging heads.
Yeah.
Yeah. This wasn't a surprise, sir.
Yeah. So they end up taking Tristan's dad as the villain.
Yeah, they think he's the villain.
Yes. And Blaze and Claire catch the
Gouvry. I don't know how they did by themselves because.
Also, why would the male one leave his mate?
Oh, great question, Steph. Great question. Why? So then they're trying to figure out, like, okay, what happened? Claire asked to speak to Evie and Tatiana, and because Tatiana was the only person unaccounted for when the Gouvry escaped. Evie, then she's screaming. Tristan's like, what the hell's going on? Opens the door, and they're basically like torturing her with the dagger.
Yes.
But it's to help her because the more she's exposed to it, the less it will hurt at some point. And I'm like, okay, this took a turn
Yeah. She's becoming stronger, Evie.
Yeah, she is. And then she ends up going home and sees a letter from her mother in her father's room.
Her dead mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We learn a little more about Evie's gold tattoo, which the ink was actually from Claire. Claire like imbues magic into these inks, but it's not like the other ink. Its main purpose instead of loyalty is protection. And we find out that Villain has the same ring around his bicep, and that tells him if she's ever in danger. So that's kind of how he shows up every time she needs help.
We then learn a little bit more about some backstory on to what happened to some of the guards that helped procure some of these, this is where the pieces all start to fit together. You can start to see the lines from things that have previously happened in the book to what's happening now. So we find out that the guard that purchased that blue ink died the next day. Someone else had purchased the bomb, and this part was this got me. I was not anticipating any of
I
it.
did not see this coming.
Like with the twist and that her father's awful, basically.
Mm-hmm. So it was East Marigold, and I think that was a name that Evie's dad would use in stories when she was a kid. He would make up these grand stories.
Yes.
Um, and Evie's father had also given her blue ink when she started working, although he added red to make it look purple. And that ink is magical and can help him, the person, see everything that whoever's using the ink is writing. So he has seen everything that she has written while at work.
And she takes really great notes.
She does.
Um, which was an asset until it was a huge liability.
Yeah.
So Evie finds blue ink on her father's desk and papers that are like from her own notebook. She's like, where did you get these from? Her father turns out to be just a terrible, terrible human. He gets violent a lot. Evie somehow locks him in his room. Her father, this part got me,
Ugh.
where her dad basically sold her to the blacksmith who attacked her. The blacksmith agreed to give her father extra money for time with Evie a few nights a week.
Ew.
Yeah, not good.
Broke me.
And we find out that her father lied. He never had the mystic illness. The butcher shop was a cover. He is actually a knight for the Valiant Guard. Luckily, Evie kind of saw this all coming before she
How?
even got home. So she had planned ahead and sedated her father with the new healing potion that Tatiana had given her.
Oh.
Mhm.
How did she know? Like, I was like, how did?
So it was the name East Marigold
Okay.
because her dad used that name when he was telling her stories as a kid, like the made-up stories he would tell her.
Got
That's
it.
how she knew it was her father, and that's how she knew to be prepared and sedated him early.
Well, thank goodness she did that. And then her little
Mhm.
danger tattoo alerted the villain.
Oh yeah.
And so the villain gets there and, steps in, really helps with the sister who,
Mhm.
I think Evie obviously had like a clue what she was walking into, but I really feel for the sister.
He's innocent, and you
Yes.
hate to see
Yeah.
the bad side of your parents.
Yeah, so the villain then opens up back at the manor to Evie about what happened with the king um 10 years ago that helped to make him be the villain. And basically what happened was, when his magical powers were like detected and awoken, um, then he locked the villain up to try, like his magic was too dangerous. He wasn't sure how to control it. And almost, I don't want to say like in an effort necessarily to like kill him, but to make him into a weapon, I think that he wanted to use at his disposal, and it wasn't working out that way. And so what the villain realized was that if the king wanted to him to use his powers to make, to do bad things, he would do bad things, but only directed towards the king. And so after that, like sharing of all the feelings and the history and the very tension-filled day, we get a bit more tension with the villain and Evie.
We get a hug.
Whoa.
Again, this
We
book is
get
YA.
we get a hug. An almost kiss, but Kingsley unfortunately knocks over a plate.
Um,
Excellent timing.
yes. And so Evie finds herself siding and understanding and sort of being the villain, like in mentality wise. Like, yeah, the king sucks and we should get back at him. And so the manor adds two more residents to it, and something happens to the villain.
Kind of like right when they get there. I think
Yes.
Evie forgot something back at the house and they were planning to go back and get it, but as they're about to leave, six riders appear, one with their hand raised toward villain who has already collapsed and telling Evie to run. And then a carriage comes up and King Benedict gets out. And they put the villain in magical cuffs, which I'm assuming are made by Mr. Odo Warson, our
Uh-huh.
lovely friend. Um, so the king wants the villain not Evie. So he's like, I don't really care what happens. So Odo Warson somehow comes up behind Evie, grabs her. Just the king says, I want her body. You can do whatever you want until then.
Ew.
Basically kill her. The villain begs them to spare Evie. Um, the king says he won't make the villain watch, sedates him, throws him in the back of the cart. And somehow Evie, she slits Odo's throat with the magical dagger,
That like exposure therapy was working.
right? Because now it
No,
doesn't
yeah.
hurt.
And
And then the second knight kills one of the other ones. So there is a good knight there, but that good knight gets on a horse and leaves. Evie hangs Odo Warson's head in the manor. And we end the book by Evie vowing to save the villain or become one trying.
oh, it was so
I know.
good.
It was good.
It
That
was so
cliffhanger was good.
I know. This was one of those books where I finished and it took everything in me not to immediately buy book two.
Yeah. Did you've read book two?
No,
Oh, wow. I
I
thought you
know.
had.
Well, book three comes out, I think, this summer sometime, probably August, I think it is.
Oh, so you're gonna read book 2 and 3.
Oh, well, I'm hoping that they put book two on Kindle Unlimited.
That's kind of my hope. Like, if I'm patient, then I can read book two on KU, and then I'll probably buy book three right when it
How,
comes out.
how many
But I
is
don't,
there only 3 books in the series?
I think
I
so.
think so.
Mhm.
Kind of like Fourth Wing and Iron Flame eventually made it to KU
Yes,
a year later.
as you approach the next one coming out. So
True, true.
that's my thought.
All
So what do
right,
you guys
favorite.
think?
I enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
cute. I did.
I really like this book. This really cemented for me that I like fantasy when we don't waste time world building.
Yes.
When it's simple.
Yes. And
Simple,
I
yeah.
like
Simple.
YA.
Minimal world building.
Like I enjoy a YA book because I fast forward through the spicy scenes anyways. Uh, like I don't find anything lacking when I read a YA book, especially
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
plot as capturing as this
Well,
one.
and there can be even more tension.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
angst.
it's obviously a slow burn if it's YA.
Yeah, yeah.
The slow burn with the burn off the page.
Yes. And I do like slow burns too.
Yeah.
So
So favorite character besides Kingsley?
besides Kingsley, um, I really liked Tatiana's the healer, right?
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
really liked her a lot. And
I I
I liked,
enjoyed villain.
I was just gonna say, I liked the villain a lot too.
Yeah.
I always like a strong female main character, so I
Evie
always go
was a
with
Evie.
strong
Evie.
female main
Mhm.
Yeah.
character.
So, themes and tropes. Fantasy,
Fantasy, slow burn.
slow burn, grumpy sunshine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What else?
It's almost like damsel in slight distress.
Yes.
Yes. Question, do you think Evie's gonna have powers?
I think so.
Because her mom has
I think her
powers.
powers are going to awake while she becomes the villain.
Yeah.
That's
And then do you think her mom's still alive?
yes.
I
They didn't
haven't considered
say she
any of
died.
these things, you guys. You're so good.
They didn't say the mom was dead.
No, and she found the letter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so the mom's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other
She's just gone.
yeah, I think the dad like hid her away or did something with her.
Dad did something to send her away
Yeah.
and keep her from the kids. Like she didn't want to go.
I wonder what the timing is. Like 10 years ago, the king wanted to make the villain into that weapon, and he said no. I wonder what the timing is on like which came first, the mom being gone slash maybe being captured by the king to try to be his new weapon.
Oh. That could oh yeah.
Ooh.
And the
That's
skeezy dad like selling her out.
that dad, I did not see that coming. He was
I
a
didn't
prime
either.
jerk.
Well, and because Evie worked so hard
I know.
to
And he was
like,
fine the entire time and
yeah,
like had plenty of money. And they lived so poorly.
yeah, like not even modestly poorly. It
So
was,
poorly.
he
Like
was, ugh.
wondering when if they were gonna have enough money for food the next day.
I know, like I don't want to. So in Harry Potter, Bellatrix Lestrange is one of my favorite characters because I feel like she was so well written and then the movie is so well played. Like the turn of the dad was like like such a good part. Like I don't want to say favorite character, but it got me so good.
I did not see that coming.
I probably audibly gasped while I was reading. Like I probably was like, "Oh my gosh."
There were quite a few like twists and
The-
turns that I was not
Yes.
expecting in this book.
Amity, when did you read this for the first time?
She texted
Um,
us at least 6 months ago.
Okay,
yeah, it
okay.
was in the fall sometime.
Okay.
It was in the fall,
Remember
probably
you
like
texting us
September.
after saying you loved it.
Yeah, September, October. And I was like, we must read this. It's on KU. So I'm so excited that you guys got to read it now. And I'm still very impressed that I read it again and I did not purchase book two afterwards.
Amity, round two reading. What do you rate this?
This is like a 9.
Wow.
I almost said 8.5, but I really, really liked this book.
I'm impressed. I'm gonna go 7.5.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go 7.
All right, calculator. Steph, what do we got?
It's a 7.833 repeating.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
I definitely bring it up a lot.
yes.
But I really, really enjoyed this book. This is all of the things.
We know how to make Amity happy.
Yeah. Don't put any
This is
mystery
the
in
kind
there.
of thrilling I like. Like, I know we've read some creepy ones lately.
Mhm.
I like magical kings that are coming to get you.
With a frog.
With frog.
Yeah, with the little
Fine.
frog. It's like not good. That's
Uh,
that's where I'm at. This is
I
the
still have the second book of that series in my
Which one?
the housemaid.
Oh, the
housemaid.
housemaid.
Yeah.
I don't. I will go watch the movie.
Okay.
But I don't have a desire to read the
The
second
second
book.
one, yeah.
Don't tell me anything about any of
I
it.
also, I think one of the reasons I will go see that movie is because
The cast is so good.
Yes. So the 1923, one of the main characters is he was in It Ends With Us.
Oh, yes, yes.
I can't remember his
He
name right
looks
now.
like Chris Evans to me.
Kind of.
I don't know why I was like,
He's so great in 1923.
yeah.
So good.
So yeah, he and
What's his name?
I'm gonna look him up.
Brandon? Maybe?
No, what's this show called?
1923.
Maybe I'll look at the poster.
Brandon Sklenar.
Yes, yes. So he's gonna be he's in it and so the housemaid.
He's the husband, right?
He's the husband. Yes.
Oh, that's gonna be good. That
Oh,
book,
he
I
looks
see-
creepy. That is good. That's a good cast.
He looks creepy.
Like if you Google him, just the picture that comes up,
Okay, that's not a good picture.
Yeah.
okay.
That
It
is
looks more like this.
yeah.
Oh, the mustache. That's totally different.
Yeah.
Mhm. The facial hair really helps.
Oh, wow. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you click on images, it's so different.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
looks, yeah.
That initial photo is not what it really is.
Yes.
No, that initial
needs
photo
facial
looks
hair.
like creepy
really
white
does.
man. I
Yeah.
wonder if they're gonna have him have the facial hair to make him creepy.
Probably.
I don't know. I think he has to have the facial hair.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because so they've started filming for Housemaid because what's the actress name? She's in Euphoria too. So when she's finished
Oh,
Sydney
Sweeney.
Sweeney. So when she's finished with Housemaid, she is gonna play the main character. Once she's finished with Housemaid, she's gonna go finish Euphoria.
Oh my gosh, that's busy.
Yeah. And then you also have Anne
Amazing.
Hathaway and
No, not Anne Hathaway.
No. Anne Hathaway and Josh Hartnett are filming
Oh,
Verity.
yeah.
Another movie Amity will not be in.
No, absolutely not.
Housemaid, I feel like you could go see it like in the daytime at your house.
At an 11 a.m.
Matinee.
matinee.
Or I could not see it.
Hey, it's
All
expensive to
options.
go to
We'll
the
discuss. We
movies.
won't make any decisions yet, but we'll leave everything as an option.
Yeah. So, our next book is called Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh.
This has been on my TBR for a very long time,
So,
I will say.
this is definitely not YA when I downloaded it.
She texts us.
The cover is
and
rated
what did you
PG-13
say?
alone.
The picture on the KU.
She says this cover is aggressive.
I'm like, neither the man or the female are wearing any clothes.
Oh, damn, they are not.
What?
You are correct. Missed that one.
That's so
So-
funny. Well, looking forward to opening up the cover on this book. Thanks for listening to our reviews, rants, and ramblings. Remember, if you also read this book or any others that we've talked about and you review it on Amazon or Goodreads, please include that Shmindle Shmumlimited sent you. And if you wouldn't mind a quick review on your podcast platform, we would be forever grateful. Have a great weekish, and we can't wait to read, review, rant, and ramble about the next book with you. Bye!